Wonderful to have you here today. My name is Dan McCormick. We are live on the Greatest Salesman page. This is going to be an epic show wherever you may be joining us from across the globe. We hope you'll make comments. We hope you'll share it. We hope you'll like the page. And we certainly hope that you will be able to leave us a review at the right point in time. And look at that, Bobby Gallegos already cranking it out right here. It's great to see your comments coming in. We love your comments throughout the show, your questions throughout the show. We'll get to everything we can. This is our 10th episode. I can't even believe time is flying by. And we are thrilled today to have just another outrageous guest. As the Greatest Salesman podcast has been going, like I said, the 10th episode, it is all about this amazing piece of literature that was written 52 years ago. The first book ever put in my hands as a young man trying his hand at business. And what an honor it is to be the official ambassador to the Augmandino Company and the host of the Greatest Salesman podcast, and be able to invite every single week the greatest salespeople in the world that I get a chance to meet. It is just going to be an absolute blast. And none other than, I believe, St. George, Utah brings us today, my good friend, Justin Prince. Justin, good afternoon, and how are you?
Brother, it's great to be on. It's weird to say St. George. We're just new down here in Southern Utah, but honored to be on with you. You're one of my favorite people on the planet, so I appreciate you inviting me on.
Well, it is an honor. I know you got a lot of family and friends and fans, and we'll have people across the globe watching. And if you're watching us today or 6 weeks or 6 months from now or 6 years from now, we look forward to bringing you the Greatest Salesman podcast. It's Wisdom Wednesday, I like to call it, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific time. And Justin, what I love to do for all of those that join and come to watch what we present every week, I love it when our guests, rather than me and you talking about our history or any of the niceties of how we got to know each other, I wonder if you could first us and give us going from selling Bibles to selling billions of dollars of goods and services. If you couldn't just start us off with a value proposition, like what are 3 things that really shape your life for each and every day?
You know, it's funny, Dan, we were together in California, and when you said that you like that type of a question, I thought, what are the big overarching things? So I'll give you 3. First is this: I believe in God. And that simple statement has shaped decisions in my life, and it's a reason I do a lot of things that I do. So that'd be number 1. Second is, I believe that no success outside the home can compensate for failure inside the home. So I'm a family man. I got 4 kids, and that is a life philosophy I try and live by that shapes a lot of my decisions. And then the third one's more of a business philosophy, and that is always do more than you're paid for as an investment in your future. And as I think about that, you know my story: no college education, no real professional background, making pizzas, doing construction work. I used to work at a mall kiosk selling animated Bible movies. And, but what I did have is a lot of hustle, and I always did more than I was paid for at that time as an investment in my future, and basically in the person I was becoming. And those would be the 3 things that as I look at, those are key core life philosophies and life perspectives that have guided and shaped my journey.
Well, it is an absolute, really grounding thing. Every conversation and every situation we've ever been in together, I can feel those 3 things come from you. Expand on number 3, if you could, for our listeners today. Do more than you're paid for. What does that really mean to you?
You know, we live in an interesting time where where entitlement can root into your system. You know, entitlement means someone owes you something, or, whether it's your parents or your government or your city or your state or your business or somebody, your job, your employer, someone owes you something. And the fact is, no one owes you anything. You not only should you do what you're paid for, but do more than you're paid for. Remember, there's a value ladder. And so a value ladder, Dan, would be this idea that we're not paid for the hours that we put in. We're paid for the value that we bring to the hours that we put in. So someone who might make $10 an hour, someone else make $100 an hour, someone else might make $1,000. The hour didn't change, but the value that those people brought to the hour changes. So when you're building your career, you're not only saying, you owe me this $10 an hour, $8 an hour, whatever your situation is. You're saying, look, I'm going to put in $15 or $20 worth of value to this hour, even if I'm not being paid that right now, as an investment in my future, an investment in my skills, an investment in my relationships, an investment in my work ethic, like my ability to produce in that hour. Because what my experience has been is you become more valuable to the marketplace over time. I started literally my first formal job. I did construction work for my dad growing up. My first formal job was working, making pizzas. I think I made $5.25 an hour, maybe in $6.25 or something. But my point is that's about where it was. That's probably below what you would make these days, but that's what it was back then. And I look at that now, and now I make more money than that per hour. You know what I'm saying? And what's happened? What's changed? What's changed is I am more valuable to the hours now than I was then. But I showed up early. I stayed late. I worked as hard as I could. I tried to have a good attitude. I tried to have a good perspective. I didn't think that boss owed me anything. I tried to invest more than I was paid for at the time as an investment in my future and in the person I was trying to become. So that's been a core philosophy. I mean, I remember as an entrepreneur, many times as an entrepreneur, and Dan, you've lived this as well. Oftentimes, man, you do a lot of work for a lot of time for very little as you're getting a business up off the ground. I mean, you're grinding and working. And for me, my first business failed. And so at one point I moved my pregnant wife and our two babies into the loft of my wife's parents' garage. I'm working 2 part-time jobs trying to chase the dream to be free as an entrepreneur. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, this is a lot of work, a lot of grind. But as I look back at that now, all of that effort ultimately caught up because I was growing. My skills were getting better. I was sharpening the saw, as it were, and I was just improving. So you always do more today as an investment in your future tomorrow. So always do more than you're paid for as an investment in your future has been just kind of a core philosophy I've tried to live by.
Man, I love it. And I'm going to see if we can put Carol Watts Neal's comment back up on the screen there, because I hope everybody gets a chance in their notes. One of the things I love about these shows is as soon as they're over, I go back and watch them again and add to my notes and start saying, okay, what did I miss here? And how come I didn't have time to write this down? But that is really a tremendous, tremendous piece of wisdom. It's a great principle, I guess. And I think you're right. We can look at entitlemania, and we can look at it and say, hey, how much more can I bring to this hour today, right now? Is this I love it what my friend Nathan Ricks used to say is this the highest, most effective use of my time right now? And so, man, this morning at 4 a.m. when my eyes woke up, man, and I start opening up the wisdom literature and I get going on this stuff, I got all of Ogg's priceless pieces right here, and it just never stops. So thank you very much. I think that's fantastic. So if you're new with us, every week we love to get the show started with 3 things that really are profound for an individual, which makes them the greatest salesperson in the world. So you got God in your life. You got no success outside of the home can compensate for what would go on in the world, I suppose. And then certainly adding that value to every single hour the best you very much can. I wonder, do you remember the first time The Greatest Salesman was put in your hand?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it was first on audio. It was literally a tape, a cassette tape. By the way, listen, I turned 40 next Sunday. So not this coming Sunday, but next Sunday. I'm getting old, dude. Like, I have like gray hairs now. I'm like, what's going on here? Some people watching are like, bro, you're not old. And others are like, you're old, dude. You're 40. So when I first heard Greatest Salesman in the World, it was actually on an audio tape. I was selling animated Bible movies in Arizona. It's a true story. And I was in my car, had it plugged in, and it was late one night. So I'd finished selling. It was about a 10-day kind of sales trip. And so I was driving home late. I went from Mesa, Arizona to Kanab, Utah, which that drive is about, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours, something like that. And then I had another few hours to get home. And I was just listening to this, and the story, as you know, Dan, it's taught like almost like in a parable or a story, right? It's kind of taught in story form. It's part of the reason it's so brilliant. And as at the end, when the story kind of comes full circle, I was just like, oh my gosh, and just like light bulbs. And if you haven't read The Greatest Salesman in the World, I mean, it's one of the just fundamental classics of personal development, fundamental classics of taking your life to the next level. So I remember when I first read it, all of those scrolls, I was reading those scrolls, listening to them as I was selling that week. Because remember, I was out of town selling, all commission. If I didn't sell, I didn't make money.
Wow. And
so I was, away from my family. This, by the way, this is in that period where my business had failed. So I'm really trying to hustle. I'm below zero financially, like back on taxes, back on credit cards, like trying to make the whole thing happen. And those were fundamental scrolls, fundamental life philosophies that helped to shape a lot of who I am now. I will persist until I succeed. I'm telling you that is one of the ones that I could like chalk up a lot of my experience too of, people say, why did it pan out? That's the word until guaranteed my success. So that's, I absolutely remember that. I remember it vividly. I remember I could taste it. I could remember I wanted success so bad that I was, I'm not in my car listening to sports radio. I'm not in my car listening to music, dude. I'm in my car listening to freaking Augmentino, pour in the scrolls and that scruffy voice, so that's, I absolutely remember where I was when I first heard those.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing. I mean, I was standing in a parking lot. I was a 19-year-old punk kid, no self-esteem, no self-worth, no net worth. And this guy says, this book changed my life. I was $53,000 in debt, and I just made $75,000 in my first 90 days in business with then my future wife. I didn't know. It's always good to marry your upline, and that's what I did. But, it's interesting because the scrolls are really unique and personal to everybody. So because of my upbringing, it was scroll number 2, because I didn't have a sense of really what love was. I didn't know what philia was. I didn't know what brotherly love was. And so that scroll, I will greet this day with love in my heart. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life. But it's the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men and women. Until I master this art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. So virtually for 38 years, those words echo in my mind at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. So it's always curious to me to see what scroll strikes you. So I actually have the cardstock scrolls, and I knew you were going to pull that one out. So I pulled the cardstock scroll out. And I don't know if you have your book handy, but when I look at this scroll and I just see this, it's just sheer poetry. I will persist until. You brought that out to me, unlike anybody that I've ever listened to. Why do you think that struck you so uniquely?
Get emotional with you. So my wife and I just moved 2 months ago to Southern Utah, and my son, for the first time, he's 16. For the first time, he's playing high school football. And for those of you that have children, you know how it is, dude. As a parent, you just want them to be healthy and you want them to be happy and, the whole thing. And he goes out for football. So imagine he moved 4 hours. So new community, new school, new kids, and new sport. He never played it in his life. So he goes out to play, and he's really the new guy, right? He doesn't know what's going on. So long story short, I go to one of his practices, Dan. I'm the only father in the stadium, in the bleachers, just sitting there watching. And they had only had helmets on. They didn't have pads on, just the helmets. And they were running a drill where he's playing linebacker. For those of you who don't know football, linebackers, the guys are supposed to hit the guy with the ball, basically. And they're running through these drills that they're going about 90%, meaning they don't have pads on, right? But they're still trying to get used to how it all works. So when the running back comes up, their running back, by the way, is a senior. My son's a junior. The senior, his last name is Stone. This kid's a fantastic athlete, super built. And he comes running up, and I was noticing that as he would run through the line, every play was a touchdown. And obviously they're going through the motions a little bit, but no one would hit him because the linebackers were holding these pads. The pads, Dan, if you can imagine, the pads are about the size of your chest, and you'd have 2 handles in the back, and you're supposed to come up and hit the guy. And no one would hit this kid. And so my son goes in, he's the new guy, and he's playing linebacker, and they're saying, Prince, hit him. When he comes up, pop him. You're supposed to. That's what, we got to get him ready and all of us ready to play. So they run the ball. Here comes Stone coming up, and my son comes over and just goes, bam, and just blasts this dude, which is what he's supposed to do. And the coaches are like, whoa, Prince, that's what we're talking about. Well, this Stone kid flips around and throws the ball right in my son's face. Just bam, hits him right in the face with it. Now he's wearing a face mask, but still hits him in the face. And I know my son well enough to know he's wired a little different than me. I used to be a fighter, back in the day, I was a Golden Gloves boxer. And, so me, I would have been like, oh, what? But my son is he's got a lot more, fortunately, my wife and him. He's a softer, sweet kid. And so I could see him reach his hand out like this to say, hey, I'm new, and they told me to do this. I'm not trying to be a jerk. I was just, I could see him, the contention of that moment, I could tell was stressing him out. I could just tell just from watching from the stands. So I walked up to him on the field after, Dan. They're all kind of taking off. They're all sweaty and taking off their helmets. And it's dusk. No kidding. You can see the red rocks behind us. And I said to him, I saw that kid throw the ball in your face. He goes, Dad, everyone told me, don't mess with Stone. Don't hit him. in fact, if he comes up to you, just turn your pad like this, just slightly turn it so that because they're like, dude, he'll knock your teeth out. He'll run you over. Like, just turn your pad so it doesn't hit you. And, I think back to that scroll, and I think back to just the way that like I was raised and whatever. I said, son, we don't turn our pad. I said, when someone comes at us, I said, your job is to hit him. And I said, you hit him with everything you've got, every play. I said, from whistle to whistle. I said, before the whistle, after the whistle, it's all sportsmanship. But I said, when they blow the whistle and it's time to hit, I go, you don't turn the pad, dude. And then what I said to him is what makes me emotional is, I said, I know this sounds weird. I'm going to say it to you guys. I know it sounds weird, but I go, you have Prince blood that flows through your veins. I go, I don't turn the pad. Your grandpa didn't turn the pad. His grandpa didn't. I said, if we like hit him every play as hard as we could, every play. And as you relate that to your life, you're like, what if you get run over? Dude, you get back up and you hit him again as hard as you can every play. And so you just persist until you succeed. So Dan, you imagine if we had a quarter. So I want to do this with your audience, right? Imagine you have a quarter. Now in the United States, you have heads, you have tails, you have a quarter, right? 25 cents. How many of you guys are good at math? By the way, follow along in the comments here. How many is good at math? Let me ask you guys a math equation. The math equation is this. What are the odds that I could flip the quarter, flip it up like this, catch it, and I could land 10 heads in a row? Like, what are the odds that I could land 10 heads in a row? You guys with me? Is it 50-50? Because remember, it's heads, tails, 50-50. Is it 1 out of 10? So 10% odds, because remember, I have to land 10 heads in a row. What are the odds? What do you guys think? As you think about that, you say, okay, what are the odds I could land 10 heads in a row? Do you guys want to know the answer? Dan, the answer is it's a 100% for sure guarantee that I can flip 10 heads in a row. Why? Because I didn't limit how many times you could flip the coin. You can flip the coin until you land 10 heads in a row. Now, it may take you 100 flips, may take you 1,000, may take you 1,000,000, but you can persist and flip until you succeed. And so as I look back at my career, like the times I got knocked down, the times I got, I wanted just to be like, I'm out, I quit, I give up, enough for me. I don't want to do this anymore. And you get your teeth kicked in, you kind of lay there on the ground and bleed. What are you going to do? You're eventually going to pick yourself up, pick up the rocks, dust off the dust, get back on the horse and persist again and keep going until. What most people do is they persist until it gets hard. Yeah. And they persist until they get hit. And they persist until it gets hot. Or they persist until the team member quits. Or they persist until the company does stupid things. They persist until that happens, and then they say, I'm out. And they feel justified because they have enough reasons to justify the quitting versus enough reasons to keep going. So here's what I'd share. I was keynoting Dan in Seattle for a wealth management firm. I was probably, if not the youngest guy in the room, I was one of the youngest guys in the room. The median income of the room was $750,000. There was a couple folks in there making a few $1 million a year. And I'm the keynote speaker, right? And this is about 3 years ago. And I taught this, persist until you succeed. I said, you can guarantee your success with the word until. It can guarantee it. By the way, think of how powerful that is, Dan. Not make your success hopeful, not even make it possible, not even make it probable. I'm talking guarantee your success. And you can guarantee it by, I'll persist until I succeed. So I had a guy in the back. He's probably my guess is about 65 years old. He's sitting back like this. He has his leg crossed and he's got his arm like this. And I could tell he was going like this. I could tell he wanted to ask me a question, but I could also tell he was going to call me out in front of everyone. So he was like debating if he should be the guy that calls out the speaker in the middle of the speech, right? And instead of avoiding the guy, I just pointed at him and said, sir, do you have a question? And I could tell, you can almost read body language a little bit. And he goes, let me ask you a question. He goes, there's a difference between persistent and crazy. So in other words, like you're just doing it over and over and over and you suck at it and like you're just going to keep persisting. And he said, so you're telling people they can guarantee their success if they just keep persisting. But what's the difference? When does it turn into Einstein's definition of crazy, right? Like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I said, you're right, sir. You're right. I said, do you want to know what the word is? I said, write this in your notes. Adapt I said, but the word until still guarantees your success. I will adapt until I succeed. I will change until I succeed. I will grow until I succeed. I will persist until I figure this thing out. But I said the word until still guarantees your success. And so I will get up until I succeed. When I get knocked down, I get up and I'll learn, I'll recalibrate, learn new skills until I succeed. Like the word until properly applied will guarantee your success. And so that was as I look back at my career, and again, I apologize for getting all emotional about my son's story, but I look at him, I was like, we're not pad turners, dude. Like you don't freaking turn the pad. And as I look at my business career, like the challenges, because you say billions of dollars. Listen, you know how it is, Dan. That was opportunity fraught with difficulty equal to success. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so all of that was just persisting until, getting up until, and not being a freaking pad turner. We live in a society with too many freaking pad turners. Too many people, they act like they're in the game and they just turn the pad so they don't take the hit, and so they don't look bad. And I'm telling you, even if you get run over, stand back up, pick out the rocks and the dust yourself off, and go again, and just keep persisting and adapting and growing and changing until you hit your goals and dreams and become the person you're trying to become. I promise my answers won't be that long from here on out. I'll work up.
Oh my gosh. I mean, our audience, you can just see the comments are just filling up the screen here. And first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing a personal story, because I have my daughters in the other room right now with all the grandkids. We have a 12th grandchild on the way, 4 married daughters. And I remember going to those basketball practices with my daughter. I remember going through that kind of an emotion. But it's interesting how you brought it out and you made it so real for family. It can be real for business. It can be real by reading the scroll. Let me just share Og's last few words of that first paragraph of scroll number 3 that we're all going to be studying a little harder today because you're teaching us so much. He says, if I persist, if I continue to try, if I continue to charge forward, I will succeed. Just such outrageous reminders and really the granularity of the detail for you to be able to share that with us here today and all the audience, whether it's live on screen or weeks or months or years later. Just fantastic. So that scroll obviously just resonated with you at such a deep level. You can feel it every day of your life.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
It's awesome. He's Justin Prince, everybody. If you're joining us late today, you can go to IamJustinPrince.com. I went last night. I did not even know you had a book, bro, okay? Because you didn't promote your book to me. I read the book all online last night. Change Your World, 5 Steps for Unapologetic Success. You can go to IamJustinPrince.com and get your free copy today. He's Justin Prince. I'm Dan McCormick. I'm the ambassador to the Og Mandino Company. And what we like to do is just give you a brief little free nugget from the Og Mandino Company. If you want to measure your thoughts, literally scientifically measure your thoughts to see if you are willing to persist until you succeed, you can go to the following link and get a free online assessment today at habitfinder.com/Justin. And if you do that today at habitfinder.com/Justin, you'll see that up on the screen here momentarily. I asked the owner, Dave Blanchard, today, what could we give people? Because I know Justin's going to bring a lot of people. What could be like something we could add in we've never added before? And we have this entire section on dream creation. And, you know, the whole world is about creation. That word starts in the Bible about the creation in Genesis. Everything in our lives starts with creation. What if you could know exactly how to do it, how to apply those principles of creation in your life? You can simply go to habitfinder.com/Justin. If you take that assessment today and you request your free consultation, you will get a $199 value, the Dream Creation course. So there it is up on the screen right there.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that for my audience, dude.
You know, your team.
I didn't know you were going to do that until we jumped on.
You know, it's just the principle of giving away free stuff. You know how it works. You just give away as much as you can. I mean, I look at this signed trilogy set that I have from Betty Mandino. I look at the signed greatest secret in the world I have from Og Mandino. I look at the history of these scrolls and what they've meant to my life. And I generally, every week, everyone I talk to, who do you know that's the greatest salesperson in the world? And when did you read The Greatest Salesman? And you just answered that question. And so thank you so very much for being here again, and all of you that might be joining us. But now I have a question for you about your book, because I really do love this word that you use, intentional. And I know it's something you've given a lot of thought to because you write about it. And, you know, that hour that we're going to give for, like, me and you, I was $5 an hour building tennis courts. You're $5 an hour working for your dad, construction, I think it was, or was it?
Yeah, making pizzas, construction.
Making pizzas, et cetera. So, you know, I think about what Og Mandino did in each and every scroll, kind of the way Ben Franklin did each and every virtue. There's an intentional point of the day, 3 times a day, just like Daniel in the Bible prayed 3 times a day. There's an intentional point to reading the scrolls 3 times a day. So talk to us about that, because you've really created something. For those that don't know you, you've generated an organization that does millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in volume monthly. You see people on your teams that create astronomical successes very quickly. You've got an intentional intention for your success and your contribution.
Yeah. So let's start with this. We live in the most distracted time in human history. It's never been worse than it is now. We're all basically addicted to our phones. You say, I'm not addicted. Are you kidding me? Okay, well, don't pick up your phone for the next 7 days and tell me how you're doing. Like, you're going to, like, you can't go 5 seconds without it, right? Like, how many of you know where your phone is right now? You know what I'm saying? You're like, okay, it's right here. Like, you know, guys, we're like addicted to this digital download and this digital distraction. And most of us are living in a world of reaction and distraction versus intentional creation. We're not intentionally creating a life. We're reacting to the distractions of our life. And what I would share with you is, when you can make this shift of just like, I'm going to leave the world of distraction and enter the world of like intentionally creating my life, like becoming the person that I want to become. You know, one of the things I've had a chance to do is work with another just amazing author, which is John C. Maxwell. He's Inc. magazine said he's the world's foremost authority on leadership. 30 million plus copies of his books have been sold, 100 books total. So John and I served on his advisory council, and we went at one point to Costa Rica to do what's called a country transformation. So Dan, they've done a couple different developing countries where they'll teach 15 leadership principles, 15 leadership values to developing nations. But they start with the 7 pillars of influence in the nation. So for example, politics, healthcare, sports, so like soccer, military or police. In other words, they start at the top and then work leadership down, because they start with the key centers of influence in those different business, et cetera. Well, one of the stops that we made was with education. We went to one of the local universities, about 500, imagine this, guys, 500 students out in the audience. We've been watching John teach all over. We're part of like maybe 8 of us, 7 or 8, 9 of us that are in this little group traveling around Costa Rica with him. Went to the U.S. Embassy. I'm sitting next to the U.S. ambassador. It's like me, the U.S. ambassador, John Maxwell. I'm just like, what am I doing here? You know, kind of thing. And anyway, so one of the stops we make is at this university, 500 students. Now you think of a college student, 18, 19, 20 years old kind of thing. And John gets up. And if any of you, how many of you, someone say yes in the comments, or someone say the word John in the comments, if you've ever seen or listened to John Maxwell teach. John Maxwell typically nowadays will teach from a stool. So in other words, he'll sit down and he'll have like a high boy chair, and he'll have an iPad up on the kind of the high boy table. I'm sorry, and he'll have an iPad up there, and then he'll have this stool, and he just teaches from the stool. And his content's so rich that you don't have to bounce. He doesn't have to bounce around the stage. He's just so, you're just so enthralled with his content. So long story short, we're in Costa Rica. John's on this side of this little table he has. On the other side is his interpreter, the guy that's interpreting to Spanish. And John's teaching, he's teaching, all of a sudden he just stops. And he goes, kind of like reflects for a second. He says, if there was only one thing I could teach you kids, because they're 18 to, they're college kids, 18, 20, whatever. He goes, if just almost stopped and reflected. He goes, if there's only one thing I could teach you, they would have the most impact in your life. He said it would be this. And he just sat there and it was like stopped midstream. And the interpreter interprets. And then he stands up off his stool and he walks right to the edge of the stage in this little auditorium with these students. And there's some teachers in there and some students. And everyone's kind of like, so what's the one thing? Everyone's got their pen out and like ready to write their notes. And he just stands there and he goes like this. And he holds his arm up like this, just straight up in the air, And 5 seconds have passed, hasn't said a word. 10 seconds passed, hasn't said a word. Like to a point where it's like what's up here? It's kind of awkward. The interpreter walks over and he stands right next to John, puts his arm up like this. So neither of them are saying a word. 15 seconds have passed, 20 seconds. And we haven't seen him do this on all the speeches. 30 seconds have passed, nothing. He's just got his arm up like this, just holding it up. 45 seconds have passed. I mean, to a point where people are like looking around the room. One of the Costa Rican students, a young woman, maybe 18-year-old young woman, she stands up in the audience and she goes like this, puts her arm up, And then another student, another one, they all put their arm up like this. Another one. The whole place stands up. The craziest thing I've ever seen. They all put their arms up like this. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What's he going to say? And he goes like this. He holds his arm up and he says, if there's only one thing I could share with you that would have the most impact in your life, it would be this. Live an intentional life. He said, all success is all uphill all the way. And he says, you won't accidentally go uphill. You must intentionally go uphill. He said, most people have uphill hopes and downhill habits. He said, so commit to living an intentional life. And that simple concept of just saying, you know what, today I'm going to live an intentional life. Og scroll number 1, today I'm going to begin a new life. What if you began a new life today, saying, in this new life I'm going to live today, I'm going to live with full intention. Meaning I'm not just going to get lost in the scroll. I'm not just going to go through the motions at dinner with my kids. I'm not just going to pick the kids up from school and not use that time. Like I'm going to focus that time and then pour it into that child. I'm going to live with intention today. And I'm going to build a business with intention. I'm going to control my emotions. Dan, you live in California and Idaho. I live in Utah. Where you live, the state you live in is not where you live. Where you live is the emotional state that you live in. If you're pissed, frustrated, ticked off, angry, entitled, and grumpy all day, that's where you live. And most of us have a freeway to piss. Something happens, boom, freeway to ticked off. And we have a dirt road to grateful and a dirt road emotionally to to centered and to perspective and context. So what I'm sharing, and to intention, to living an intentional life, having intentional, tell people, you want to be a thermometer, you want to be a thermostat, not a thermometer, meaning a thermometer reacts to the temperature of the room. A thermostat sets the temperature of the room. A thermostat sets the intention of the room. And so as a leader and as a mom, as a dad, as a business owner, as somebody who's trying to make a difference in your community or your churches or your charities, whatever it is that you're passionate about right now, live a life of intention. Most people have uphill hopes and downhill habits, and all success is all uphill all the way. You won't accidentally go up the hill, my friend. You'll only go up the hill with intentionally or purposefully. So that's kind of my thoughts. I just think that we live in this distracted world where we're almost a little bit zombies. In fact, Wayne Dyer once said, we don't see the world as, no, he said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And there's another way to look at it, which is we don't see the world as the world is, we see the world as we are. Now, Dan, what I want to share with you is this. We don't see the world as the world is. We see the world as the algorithm says the world is. Remember, we're living this reality through an algorithm. Like we go online and you think that's reality. That's not reality. That's what the algorithm served up to you. That's reality. Like we're living in a world right now that talks about how divided we all are from our politics or our races or just our different ways of looking at life. My friends, what I'm sharing with you is this. There's only one race, which is the human race. We are all human beings that actually care deeply for each other and love and want to lift each other. Like we're more connected than we are divided. Like you got to remember, you got to snap out of this stuff. Sometimes it'd be like, man, what am I doing? Like, I'm not going to let those things change my emotions. The algorithm change my emotions. I'm going to see the world the way that the world really is, which is the way it really is it's full of a bunch of people like you and I. that actually care about people and are like doing our very best to raise good families and the whole thing, build good businesses. So, we're less divided than I think we realize that we are. And so just, live a life of intention, like get control of your emotions and remember that all success is all uphill all the way. It's not supposed to be easy and you're not going to accidentally go up the hill. So you got to do it all with intention.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely brilliant. I just loved one of our guests here that said, I hope I'm not the only one holding my arm up right now. Okay. That was really, really good. I can't wait to re-listen, take extra notes on that. And that's really deep. Our audience is just blown away by that. So many beautiful comments. Thank everybody for joining us wherever you may be visiting us from. The Greatest Salesman podcast is every Wednesday at 2:00 Pacific time. And we're in episode number 10. He's Justin Prince. I am justinprince.com. Get a free copy of his book and go to habitfinder.com/Justin. And you too can take our free assessment to measure your really, see if your thoughts are aligned with the scrolls that Og is teaching. And really what Justin is teaching is just truth. It's principles. I always like to tell people that the origin of the word principle is PRIN, kind of almost like Prince, okay? Prince is a strong channel. Moving you forward is PLE. So that is living life with intention. I really thought that we might have an entire training class just on that word with you. And in fact, it was. And so it's going to be an unbelievable thing to see how many people leave their comments continually and share this with their favorite page. I know when you think about The Greatest Salesman and you think about John Maxwell, I mean, you are living with intention every day. Where did you decide that being well read was going to be of value for you? Because you are very well read. You've got great command of the language and your quotes and the people that you've studied. I mean, give us the one about the people that think that you shared with me the other day.
Yeah. So it was George Bernard Shaw said that 2% of people think, 3% of people think they think, and 95% of people would rather die than think. And then you talk about living with intention. Living with intention is being a thinker.
Yeah.
You don't just go with like the crowd just because you process and you think and you rationalize and you ask questions and you critically process information,
Yeah.
Just to answer your question, I'll share this with you. I can't think of a time where I'm like, I'm going to read books. I can't think of that time specifically. What I can share with you is this. I remember when I was 12 years old, my parents were going through a divorce. And for anyone so divorce sucks. Let's just cut to the chase. Divorce is tough, dude. And it's tough on the folks and it's tough on the kids. And just divorce is tough. And I get that some are tougher than others, but they're all kind of ugly. And my parents were going through this divorce. I remember I was in 7th grade. So I was almost 13 years old. I'm sitting in a math class in the middle school. So I'm in middle school for the first time. And I'm sitting there and I remember thinking to myself, it was almost like I was having an out-of-body conversation with myself. It's almost like I had the good little angel on the one shoulder and the bad little devil angel on the other shoulder. And the bad little devil angel was like, hey, listen, dude, you can have sex with girls. You can drink beer. You can smoke pot. You can be an idiot in school. You can drop out of school for all I care. And guess what? For the rest of your life, you can blame it on your freaking parents for blowing it. And you were this victim of their blown marriage. And I was like, man, that sounds pretty interesting. And then this other little angel was like, hey, listen, that's actually true. You can do everything that he just said. But guess what? It's your life to live. So if you choose it, that's fine. But you're going to have to live that life. Those decisions, you're going to have to live that life. And so it's your life to make and it's your life to break. And if you want to blame it on your parents and be a victim of their failed marriage your whole life, you can do that. But you're the one that has to walk around in those shoes. It's your life. I was like, man, that's a good point. I'm like going back and forth, these little devils on my shoulder. And I look back now and I am so thankful that I chose the little good angel, the little good devil, or the little good Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder that just said, listen, dude, go live a life of intention. Go make your own decisions. Don't blame other people. Don't be a victim of circumstance. Be a victor of decision, like the decisions you make. The word decision. By the way, I love what you just said about principle. I promise you, I'm going to steal that. That is so good.
It's your name.
So decision, the decision means to cut, And D means off. So an incision is to cut in, a decision is to cut off. So what does a decision mean? It means you cut off all their possibilities. And my friends, here's what I want to share with you. Dan, I want to share this with you. Share this with everyone that's listening. Every decision that you've ever made in your entire life has you listening to this interview right now, wherever you sit. And so you're not here by accident. You chose to be here through all of your decisions. Now, the decisions you make leaving this will shape the rest of your life. But you showed up today. I love my Augs. Today I will begin a new life. Like, you can make new decisions, which cut off all other possibilities and lead you down a new path. And that's what I would encourage. Like, if you're not proud of your past, today's tomorrow's past. You start stringing some good todays together, you build a great past, because today's tomorrow's past. You make new decisions today, and you start, growing into that person that you want to become. So I don't know if I ever had a time of like, I'm going to do it, but I will say this also, one last quick thing. There's this idea of like hungering and thirsting for, there's biblical terms talk about like hungering and thirsting for righteousness, but I hungered and thirsted for like success. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I got to figure this thing out. I hungered for it, dude. Like, I'd go to the gym when I was 18, 19 years old, and I would be listening to like Tony Robbins or whatever. And my brothers would be listening to like AC/DC or something. I don't know. And they're like, bro, we're at the gym. You don't listen to personal development at the gym. Like, what's wrong with you? And I look at it now, all of those years of intentionally pouring stuff into my mind. And now I can recall some of that stuff because I both did it then, and I do it every day now. Dan, I saw you the other day. It was so cool. Early in the morning. So, Dan, brother, how you doing? You go, up since, what did you say? Like, up since 5 a.m., pouring positive stuff into my mind. And I'm like, no wonder you are who you are. Like, living with that level of intention, pouring that level of positivity in your mind, no wonder you've turned into who you've turned into. So I've done that basically since I can remember. And it's funny, I look at my kids now, my 16-year-old son, he's doing it, dude. He's got all this positive stuff pouring into his brain. He's so far ahead of wherever I was, Yeah.
That's so great, because I was cleaning my office this week and I was doing an intense decluttering of my books. And behind a bookcase of more books, I found the books that I bought and the date that I bought them, all for my daughters. I bought 4 of these at the bookstore, the big, gigantic bookstore in Denver, Colorado. It's escaping my name right now. It's world famous. But it's awesome when you start plugging that into your kids. And we think about so many of these amazing people that are listening right now that are leaders of organizations. Yeah. But you got to be the leader of your house, the leader of your own mind. Yeah. First thing, mind over mattress starts for me at 5:20 a.m. almost every day. That's the latest I'm going to get up. Mind over mattress. The day has to start. In order to lead the people, you got to prepare, live life with intention and be prepared. But man, the comments that are coming in here, I had this thought when you were telling that story about the angels. I was thinking, like, we could have a repeat of this, and we could call it Outwitting the Devil with Justin, not Napoleon Hill, which is one of the iconic interviews in the history of the world. And so, so much. I'm just looking at these comments and I'm just going, wow, just a whole lot of good going on. There's a lot of people that have a lot of gratitude for your contribution today. And, our time is nearly up. I mean, you and I, we could talk forever. We don't usually work with scripts. We just kind of go with the personal development and the feel of it all. But I guess for people that might find themselves a little bit stuck right now, Og was that alcoholic. He needed to make a decision, that today I begin a new life. Maybe someone's listening today that is in a different situation. Could be pornography, could be the marriage, it could be whatever. What do I have to do to make that decision? I guess you speak to so many audiences all over the globe. I guess if you were giving like a thought or two to the brand new people or the people that maybe are a little stuck, not where they want to be, how do you close that? How do you close that seminar, if you will?
I mean, I feel like I'm known for my straight talk. So I'm just going to talk to you straight. I'm just going to hit you straight. And I'm going to hit you the way I'd hope that you would talk to me, which is this. First of all, never quit on a bad day. Don't let emotions rule your life. Never quit on a bad day. Don't quit your marriage on a bad day. Don't quit your business on a bad day. Heaven forbid, don't quit your life on a bad day. We all have bad days. And guess what? It's always darkest before dawn. The sun's coming up in the east tomorrow. We're going to get through this. So first thing is never quit on a bad day. If you're going to move on from something, then move on when your head's clear. Maybe you've slept on it a little bit. Like you're like, you thought through it. Be strategic in your life. Like, again, live a life of intention. Part of intention is strategy. It's like, look, I'm going to move forward in a more strategic way versus just being an emotional wreck all the time, reaction and distraction to all of your crazy emotions all the time. So that'd be the first thing. Never quit on a bad day. Second thing I'd share with you is this. I mean, Jim Rohn's mentor probably said it best, said for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. Like, don't keep just doing the same crap all the time and expecting things to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do we need to change? What do we need to do better? Like, where do we need, like, what can you own? Take extreme ownership. Like, what can you say, you know what, I do need to improve here. I'm not just going to blame it on them all the time, or blame it on the marketplace all the time, or blame it on the customers all the time. Like, no, I'm going to take some ownership. I can control this. What's in my control? And so, and then get strategic and make some changes. Because here's the thing, the secret to business, the secret to life is momentum. Now, Dan, you don't have to get Mach 2 momentum, speed of 1,000 miles an hour day one. But the foundation of success is believing in yourself. And the way you begin believing in yourself is by keeping commitments that you make to yourself. So you say, and I tell people, listen, the easiest way to gain momentum is start stringing wins together. And so a win for you might not be a customer purchases. That may not be a win. Maybe the win is this: the next person you talk to, make them feel like $1 million. Smile, remember their name, speak in terms of their interest, give them a sincere compliment. In other words, that's something you can totally control. It's totally within your power. Once you keep that commitment to yourself, you build some momentum. Then go make another commitment, keep it, make another commitment, keep it, make another commitment, keep it. Start stringing some wins together. Get proactive in your mind versus reactive. Don't in essence wish it was easier, wish you were better. Like, I look back at my little career, that all those times you got knocked down, you get up and you say, what can I win at next? What's something I can win at? And you start stringing wins together. You start stringing momentum together to where you get to a point where your life's, you could put 2 inches of concrete on a train track of a full-blown locomotive that's a dead stop, and 2 inches of concrete would prevent the locomotive from even moving 1 inch. You could put steel reinforced barriers of concrete on a train track, give the locomotive 55 miles an hour, and it would bust through it like steel. So what's the difference? The difference is momentum. You can get through all this stuff, but you'd get through it by keeping commitments to yourself, making commitments, keeping them, making commitments, keeping them, making commitments, keeping them. And just pick stuff that you can control. Don't pick stuff that's out of your control. Pick stuff you can control. Your attitude, your perspective, your work ethic, how you show up. Never quit on a bad day. Keep commitments to yourself and string wins together to create momentum would be kind of what I would share.
Man, I'm telling you, don't go anywhere yet, people, because I'm looking at your comments. I'm going to give everyone a challenge. Go read the comments on Facebook. Just read the comments of what people are saying. And I know that we could say goodbye right now, but I feel like there's a bonus segment in you. And so I'm gonna see if I can.
Unfortunately, bro, you're just getting me wound up.
Well, I know the fight in you when you had that when the hands were taped and you're getting in the ring back in the day. But when I first started telling people last night when I went live on my own personal Facebook page and I made a little video and I said, look, you're gonna hear from the most systematic person I know. So I wonder if you wouldn't talk about the systematic approach to life and business. I mean, we hear a lot about biohacking. People want to sleep less. They want to produce more. They want to biohack everything they can. But you, in essentially, have biohacked leverage for time. And I'm so fascinated by the concept because you've systematically figured out how do you live with such intention with your family, with your people, with your business. It's systematized down to every moment of the day.
Okay, well, let me share this. Let me start by saying this. I don't want anyone to watch this and be like, oh my gosh, this guy's different than me. Listen, Brendon Burchard did the biggest study of high performers in the history of humanity. It's called High Performance Habits. It's a book that you can go read. One of the things that he found in the study was that high performers don't do the right things all day. They do the right things 67% of the day. In other words, 67% of the time, they're dialed in. So the point that I'm sharing with you is this. You don't have to be just like I'm never going to have fun the rest of my life. No, listen, you can do Netflix and chill. You can go for a walk. You can live a life, but you need to get dialed in way more often than you probably are dialed in right now, right? So here's what I'd share is going from Aristotle said he said excellence is not an act, it's a habit. So it's not, he said, well, therefore we are what we repeatedly do.
Yeah.
So I tell people, you're not what you did, but you are what you repeatedly do. We all make mistakes, but you can't keep making the same mistakes over and over, or else that's what you are. So what you want to do is you start to build better habits, better patterns, better routines. One of them I call is avoid versus resist. So like when you wake up in the morning, you say, I'm going to build habits and patterns where I pour positive into my brain. I'll give you guys an example. Your brain works on wave cycles. It works at 10.3 wave cycles per second early in the morning. And in other words, you may feel, when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, I'm groggy. Well, guess what? Your subconscious is actually the most alert and the most awake early in the morning. It's rested. So even though you may feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, here we go. Your subconscious is like, yo, I'm ready to roll. So you start pouring in positive. Very first thing, according to research, the first thing we touch in the morning is our phones. Second thing we touch is our coffee. Third is our toothbrush. So we haven't rolled over and touched our spouse or our kids, and we're already into our phones. We're already in reaction and distraction mode. So what I want to share with you is this. First thing you touch in the morning, if you're going to touch your phone, is you're pouring positive in your brain. First 10 minutes a day, listen with relaxed belief, believing it's possible for you. Meaning this, you start pouring water into the well. A well that has no water can't give water. You know what I'm saying? You can't nourish your family with no water in the well. Like empty plates don't feed starving kids. You can't give what you don't have. So start pouring into yourself. So here's what I'd share is you get into this pattern, this habit of saying, okay, what can I do today to show up with intention? And what habits can I build that are easier for me to do than to not do? Like, in other words, I build the right habits, the right patterns, the right routines. And so, people are like, so that's rigid. I like to just be a free bird. Listen, the more disciplined you are, the more free you are. It's so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It's like I have more professional and personal freedom than anyone I've ever met. And it's because I built habits and patterns and disciplines that I did over a long, extended period of time. The more disciplined you are, the more free you'll become, not the less disciplined you are. So create habits of success, create patterns of success. Again, Brendon Burchard's High Performance Habits, great name. High performance habits. What are the habits that high performers have? And so that's what I would share, Dan. You don't have to do the right thing all day. You do have to do it 67% of the day or more, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is creating systems or habits where it's easier to do it. Avoid versus resist, by the way, is this. If I have chocolate peanut M&Ms in a dish in my kitchen, because I do my best to keep, dude, I'm turning 40, bro. I got to keep this thing as tight as possible. I got to keep the, at least an ab, I don't know if I'll get all six. So I got to keep it as tight as possible. Early in the morning, I'm not eating any chocolate peanut M&Ms. I'm good. I'm going to avoid them. Right. Or I'm so sorry. I'm going to resist them. Just resist. At lunch, I'm resisting them. I'm still dialed. I'm going to eat my chicken and broccoli. Dude, at 11:30 at night, when all the kids are asleep and I'm just, your resistance level is low, I might take a few. And if I take a few, I might take a lot. You know what I'm saying? Here's the point. I just avoid them. There's no chocolate peanut M&Ms in my house.
Right.
Avoid versus resist. I don't wait for willpower to kick in. I don't wait to be motivated. I just build systems around my life that it's not even an option, dude. If I want to eat chocolate peanut M&Ms, I got to get in my car, drive all the way to the freaking store, pull out my, money, pay for it. I mean, at that point, I'm like, dude, that's too much work. I'm not doing that. I built systems so I can just avoid it versus resist it. And what are things you can do in your life? If I just, I build systems in kind of all areas of my life where it's not even hard anymore because it's just not even around. It's not that I'm so motivated. It's not even as an option. So you're doing the right things repeatedly over a long period of time.
Wow. Incredible wisdom. I'm sure somebody's going to put that book, High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. I remember a book I read 30 years ago, Peak Performance Principles for High Achievers by John No. And I remember those kinds of things, like you pull that out. It's really powerful. Your comments today, your feedback today, your willingness to share an hour of your life for so many people that are on your team that are maybe new to the Greatest Salesman podcast. Maybe they're people here that we've never met. Maybe you've never met. Maybe I've never met. It's just an honor to be here with you to talk about really what Og says in the beginning of The Greatest Salesman. It's only principles that endure. And you really laid that out well. And I like to say that it's principles, it's habits, And then there's this one word that this remarkable man, it was his favorite word, one of the greatest, most successful men in history. His name was Spencer W. Kimball. And his favorite word was remember. And so if we can just remember, and that's why Og wants us to read the scrolls 3 times a day. That's why we read Think and Grow Rich more than once. That's why we listen to the scrolls. That's why we listen to podcasts, to be reminded of maybe what we already know. So, Justin, it's just been a joy. It's been a thrill. This is very much more enjoyable for me doing this than being in the boxing ring with you. He is Justin Prince, everybody. You can go get his free copy of his book at IamJustinPrince.com and many other fun stuff. You'll love following him. His comments, his videos, his social tribe is amazing. And if you're with us today for the first time and you want to take that habitfinder.com/Justin, you can take that assessment and perhaps do it today and get that free $199 dream creation course from the Og Mandino Company. Man, the comments are still coming, Justin. Thank you so very much for your time. I look forward to sharing the success and the journey with everybody. We're going to be here every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. He's Justin Prince from St. George, Utah. I'm Dan McCormick here in sunny Southern California. Thank you again, and bye for now.